The city of Philadelphia is giving 10 grand to home buyers, and Redfin is trying to put buyer agents out of business. Check it out now. I'm Tom Toole. She is Jess Lion, and we are here on Toole Time talking about some controversial stuff today, maybe?
Yeah. I think it's going to get a little heated.
So, the first story, this one is less controversial than the second one, which had something fall off the table there. Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, they are extending a down payment assistance program that will give $10,000 to first-time home buyers. Jess, what do you think about all this?
I think when you first read the article, it makes a lot of sense because they're doing a lot of development and in some areas that, are still up and coming and they're kind of sketchy to live in at first. And all over the city too. But $10,000 going towards your down payment or towards your closing costs, I think initially is a really great idea, and it'll generate a lot of people, to buy a house in Philadelphia. I think you have to take this like a homeowner's course I was reading in the article, which I think is great, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, and it'll give you, I guess, the layout of, writing up an offer and working with an agent, and then how to be a responsible homeowner. So at first glance, I was like, yes, this is awesome. But then I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, where are they getting this money from? That's a lot of money. And I think they, it's a lot. I think they plan on helping over like 300 people do this. So I just really am curious as to where that money's going to come from.
Well, it's city politics, so who knows where the money's going to come from. I like the idea of this for sure. Makes sense to help people, but when you look at the fine print on the program, it's not as great as it sounds, right? So you have to live in the city for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Number two, it's not a gift, it's a loan, right? So the recipients can receive up to 10 grand or 6% of the purchase price, and it will be forgiven if they stay in the home 15 years. Mm-hmm. That's 1.5 times the normal amount of time a buyer stays in a property. So they're trying to get people to stay, which is a big problem for the city right now because the schools stink. Most people, when their kids turn 5, they're out, or they're spending crazy money on private schools. And then there's also some income restrictions on it as well, which this makes sense. I have no problem with this. A single person can make up to $75,720 a year. A household with 2 will qualify with a combined income of $86,520. Talks about a household of 4 with an income cutoff of $108,120. So I like the idea of this. The challenge I see here is you said, where's the money coming from, right? Philadelphia has an astronomical city wage tax. Mm-hmm. They have all these back due property taxes, right? So I love the idea behind it. I'm more concerned about the revenue they're losing from the normal areas. And this is the fundamental problem with Philadelphia, is that they come up with things that are helpful for a few, but the large, they're still getting hit with that wage tax. They're still getting their properties reassessed. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So the financial viability of this, that's where I question it, and I'd love to see the books, which are probably all in the red, knowing Philadelphia. So I'm not as big of a fan of this as most people would be, mainly because it's going to cost somebody. Who's paying this? So, yeah, these people get a break, but where's the other money coming from?
Yep, I agree.
So where's the money coming from is a big question here.
Let's find out.
Let's find. Yeah, we'll hire a PI or something.
I'll be the private investigator.
I mean, I know that it's gonna be a lot, but there's a lot of home buyer grants out there, so I would encourage you to talk to a lender if that's something you're thinking about. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this, and they extended the program. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. It could be like that first-time home buyer tax credit that Obama had back in 2008. So
I think they're planning on doing it for at least 2 years right now.
Yeah, and the first-time buyer tax credit got extended a couple times as well, and that was more to stimulate the economy. So still, this money's got to be coming from somewhere. So I look at this as almost too good to be true, at least for the budget of the city.
Initially, it sounds great. I think they need to rework it a little bit, but I'm with you. Where's that money coming from?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be $3 million that they put into this. It's called the Philly First Home Program, and they've already earmarked $2.5 million in the budget for next year. Mm-hmm. So, there's just a lot of finagling in the city budget.
Maybe too good to be true.
Could be. We'll find out. Plus, there's a lot of restrictions. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to be everybody. So I think that
And
that's
it's not really a gift, like you said. It's a loan.
unless they stay there 15 years. Most people don't stay in properties 15 years as documented. The average home ownership 7 to 10, leaning towards 10.
I wouldn't stay in the city for 15 years.
Well, and for someone that's going to work down there and live there, different
Maybe.
story. I know when I lived in the city, it didn't make a lot of sense for us. We wanted to have kids, and then there's like the school
Right.
issue and everything else. So
Right.
fix the schools. Maybe stop giving people money to buy houses. Okay, next topic. This one is very interesting. I've got a little more perspective on this than you may think, Jess. So
Okay.
Redfin unveiled an option to cut out buyers' agents. Last week, they have been testing a pilot program. Jess's phone is going off. They were testing a pilot program in Boston that allowed consumers to make direct offers on Redfin-listed homes through the website. And their goal was to cause less friction than traditional real estate deals while also eliminating buyers' agents. What do you think about all this?
Well, reading through the article, it's apparently they've tested this before, I think in like Seattle or something, and it was a flop. But they're trying to get in Boston, and it was because a lot of listing agents were finding that buyers were coming to them unrepresented. That's what I was reading. And so this, I guess, program, it will help a buyer who's not represented and I guess write up an offer, give them stats like, this percentage of people in your area waive this contingency. And if you do purchase this property, it's going to be this much more attractive because you're saving the seller this much in commission. But I feel like purchasing real estate is too much of like a case by case basis and like going on I just wouldn't feel comfortable myself going on what the average people are doing in my area, like waiving a contingency. Like it might be very specific that you should not waive this contingency or you should. I think just having a real estate professional represent you is the way to go always. And I guess the whole process here is with Redfin, you just click online and they take you, any agent takes you through a property, and I guess you don't stick with that agent to help you write an offer. I just feel like there's not that much of a human connection here and really one person helping you out trying to get you from A to Z. So I'm not about it.
So I saw Glenn Kelman speak last week at the T360 Summit the day before this story launched. And what he said was specifically, hey, buyer agents are in trouble.
Yeah.
And this was like a 30-minute sort of Q&A, question and answer sort of piece. And there was only about 400 or 500 people in the room. So that was pretty interesting hearing him say that and then seeing the story drop a day later. And when he came onto stage, he was a little spazzed out. And the moderator actually said it the next day at the wrap-up where they went over top takeaways from each of the 7 CEOs that spoke. It was run by Stefan Swanpol. So very interesting kind of seeing that happen and then seeing the story drop. Then when I look at the comments in the story, and they talk about creating less friction, in order to submit this offer, you have to answer 55 questions. That does not sound like less friction to me. And additionally, you had a really good point. So, hey, it's less friction. I don't know the answers to all this stuff just because a certain percentage of people do this. What if the house needs a lot of work? What if it's got a septic system and you're used to public sewer? Are you gonna?
Yeah.
I mean, most people waive the sewer inspection because they don't need to. But when you have a septic, you have to do it. And that's just an example locally here, right? So I don't know how frictionless this is going to be. Redfin has probably one of the best real estate websites out there. I don't think there's any question about that. We've talked about that before on the show as well. So the site is great. What I get concerned about, and the reason people don't use Redfin, is they get no guidance in the process, and they don't know what's going on, and they're making these $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 decisions. So obviously, this is the direction they want to go. This Redfin's goal is to make it easier for the buyer, more affordable for the consumer,
Streamline everything, yeah.
And I get all that. What I can also say is that very rarely do we represent our own buyer in a real estate transaction. I mean, it doesn't happen often. It's less than 5% of the time, if that. Mm-hmm. So I don't, you get direct inquiries, but then all of a sudden, the agent appears magically for the buyer, even when they reach out to you. So from a practicality standpoint, yeah, I don't know how this is going to go.
Why did he say buyer's agents were in trouble?
Well, he didn't tell you why, and then the story drops. So that was the
I
interesting
see.
part,
I
and
see.
because they're obviously trying to get them in trouble or eliminate them because their company's not built that way. You know, the other issue with Redfin that I have is that these people don't have the same stake in the game. I mean, they're getting
Right.
paid a salary no matter
matter
what
what.
happens. So, you know, for me, for you either sell a home or you don't. You either help your client buy their dream property or you don't. You either get the home sold or you don't. There is no in between. This is a success industry.
I like that.
So, well, and I've said this to you before.
Yeah.
I've said it at events, said it wherever. This is a success. You either do the job or you don't. And what Redfin is trying to do, which I get, they're trying to bring people in that'll help and pass the savings on. But a lot of times, this isn't going to appeal to most people. They want a really good result. They're buying a 20-year property. They're not trying to save a few shekels. They're trying to get into a home and not have to go through the stress of moving again. So
I wouldn't feel comfortable making such a big decision. It kind of looks like a 4-question like Q&A kind of test when you push it through, kind of. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable making that big financial decision after taking like a 55-minute quiz online.
So I would feel comfortable, to be very
I
clear
would.
with you.
Why?
I've sold over 1,000 homes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through this. I know what to expect. That's not everybody.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 18 years. So,
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable.
You would feel comfortable.
But I don't know that a lot of other people would feel comfortable. So, I for someone that has experience or like an investor that's trying to go buy properties for 70 cents on the dollar, those sort of people, maybe this appeals to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who's buying the majority of properties.
Right.
So we'll see if it works. Redfin has an interesting track record because a lot of stuff they do does not work. I mean, their website seems to be the biggest thing. They have this partnership with Remax right now, so well, and then that's even kind of funky. So we'll see what happens here. I know what they are trying to do, and that's eliminate agents from the transaction and have their people handle it. And technology is going to change the industry pretty aggressively. I just don't know a 55-question answer to submit an offer is going to be the way that technology revolutionizes real estate.
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right.
We'll see.
Sorry, Glenn.
All
we got
right.
some motivational stuff here, Jess.
So
What do you got?
the motivation for today is by an author who I just got hooked on, Rachel Hollis. She's the author of Girl Wash Your Face, Girl Stop Apologizing. The books are amazing. Shout out to Sean from our team because he actually recommended Girl Wash Your Face to me, and I think that was a secret, so sorry, Sean. But it's a great book. You all should read it. The quote is, "Comparison is the death of joy, and the only person you need to be better than is the one that you were yesterday." Tom?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone's always worried about what everyone else is up to, and
Yeah.
I think that's the worst thing you can do in life. It's about what's going on with you, what you're doing to better yourself, not what your competition's working on. If you want to look at it on a business level, what are you doing? I mean, there was a big Sixers game this past weekend. The Sixers need to worry about themselves, not what the other team did to win. It's what could have they done differently to win. To me, it's always looking inward, always being cause in the matter. That quote sums it up. So that's a pretty, I've heard that from a lot of people. Teresa Jabor talks about that. She's an executive coach, and it's you are cause in the matter all the time. So basically, it's always your fault, right?
Always your fault.
So when you're comparing yourself to whatever else is going on, it's like the guy that sees his neighbor buy like a BMW next door.
Yeah.
So he gets the next size up on the BMW.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty stupid to me.
Yeah.
So I'm total agreement with this quote. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree with it, but I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people now today, are on social media and looking at what everybody else is doing, and you don't know if it's real or not, and you don't know how they got there, and what led them to that point. So I think looking at other people will be the number one thing that will set you back and not get you to where you want to be. I think that if you are struggling with that, like looking on Instagram or Facebook and trying to be like another person, turn those like notifications off, and that will help you. Do it for a week. I've done it before. I know people who've done it before. Stop comparing yourself to everybody you see. All this stuff is inflated and they make it look really pretty and easy. Just find your own way. You did it your way. Frank Sinatra. I did it my way.
Stop living that Instagram life is
Yeah.
what I heard you say there, which I also agree with. There's so
Yeah.
many people look like they're out there jet setting and doing all this stuff, and the reality is they're like sitting in their parents' basement and they're hanging out with their one friend who lives down the street. I mean, and that's because that's what people do right now. I mean, that's the look, and I'd rather have something of substance that I'm happy with than worrying about what everyone else has on a social media page with like 10 filters.
Absolutely. We are on it. Same page.
Catch you guys next week.